Hi folks, Merlin here, bringing you another painting tutorial. So the winner of my February paint poll was the Adepta Sororitas from Warhammer 40,000. And surprisingly, we actually had two winners. So I'll be doing a double paint video. So this one is going to be for what was going to be the initial winner until the second one caught up. And the second one will be a Patreon exclusive video. So, in this video, I'll be painting a order of the Sacred Rose Battle Sister up to both Battle Ready and Parade Ready in simple steps and using very few paints. For the Patreon supporters, you'll be getting the order of our Martyred Lady paint video. Probably won't be until a little bit into March, but I will be getting it done for you. So with this colour scheme, it's a complex one because we have to start at a white base coat for the power armour, but we have a lot of dark colours that could stain if we spill to cover on afterwards. So we're going to be taking our time. We're going to be using very few paints, as I mentioned, and most of those will be contrast paints as we're working from a nice bright base coat. That base coat is Colourforge's matte white, so make sure you've primed yours with that. If not, I will be using White Scar to even up the base coat before we move on to any colours. Speaking of colours, I'll put a list of my colours that I'm using up here for you guys to follow along. I'll do two lists. First off, we'll do the battle ready colours, and then I'll do a separate list for the parade ready colours. So before we jump over the table, a big thank you to all my supporters, whether you're here on YouTube or indeed supporting me on Patreon. There'll be more content coming for you guys soon. As I've mentioned previously on social medias, I've been a bit under the weather with a touch of flu and recently a bad tooth. But I'm on the mend now, so hopefully I can get back to doing my regular content. So there's plenty more to come, as I said. If you want to support me, there is of course links in the video description down below, including the Patreon, as I mentioned, as well as social medias and my eBay page, where of course you'll have the chance to purchase the model I paint in this very video. Right then, let's get on and paint a Battle Sister from the Order of the Sacred Rose. So, shake your paints and I'll see you at the table. So here's the model in question. As you can see, I've gone for a pretty open posed model so I can show you all the details that I can. There might be a few details we can't quite reach, like the very insides of the robes there, but that don't matter as it'll be in shadow most of the time anyway. But yeah, we got ourselves our model. And as you can see, I've used Colourforge's matte white and it's given a really good colour. But in case we make any slip-ups, we're going to first base coat her with White Scar. I'm using a medium base brush from Citadel's STC range, but any large flat-headed brush will be ideal that we can get a good base coat on the model with. So we'll just do this all over, including the areas that will eventually be other colours. There we go, with the White Scar dry, we now have a nice smooth coat on our Battle Sister. So the next stage is to give an all-over shade, and for that we're going to use Soulblight Grey, which is a nice dusky white, so perfect for shading the white armour. We're going to do it all over as it'll be a nice sort of medium basing for the areas we're going to do contrast later. So we're going to use a medium shade brush, an STC one in this case. Load up some of the shade on our palette. Making sure we ain't got too much on our brush, we're going to apply this all over the model, working it into all the recesses, moving it around, shading all the armour, and of course all the other details. With the shade drying, you can see it has shaded the armour and all the other details quite nicely. As you can see, it's a little patchy in some places, but when we come round to the parade ready, we can easily tidy those up. But as we're going to continue with battle ready, let's move on to painting the robes. So we'll start with the inside of the robes first, and for that we're going to use Blood Angels Red, a nice bright red contrast paint. As we want some control, we're going to use a nice thin brush. I got a size 1 from Royal and Langnickel, which is my lovely purple brushes. So, get a small puddle on our palette ready to draw from, making sure we're not too overloaded. We're going to start picking out all the inner robes. So we'll pick out the edge there. Working our way back as far as we can reach. Don't forget to pick out the sleeves. Trying to be as neat as we can around the white armour. With the red applied, we've managed to avoid all the white armour, which is quite nice. We've overspilled a little bit, but that's on areas we're going to be coating in with our next colour. And as you can also see, I've picked out any screens and or lenses on the model with Blood Angels Red as well. So moving on to our next colour of choice, we're going to start picking out all the black details, and with that we're going to just use Black Legion. This is a beautiful black contrast paint, nice and strong, so it should cover over the white quite nicely, and will give us that perfect black cloth. We're going to use the same brush again. We'll just get a puddle of the Black Legion on our palette, making sure we're not too overloaded. We can go in and start blocking in the black cloth. As you can see, it's already covering over the red that we've already applied, which is just what we wanted to do. Keeping the red on the edges there. We'll coat the larger, flatter surfaces with the Black Legion. We'll also tackle the bolt gun casing with this colour. If you wanted to, you could even paint over the entire bolt gun, as we'll be layering over with a silver afterwards anyway. Final details to pick out in the Black Legion are any soft joints in the armour, so just behind the knee there. Like so. Now that the black is dried, we can see our battle sister is really starting to come along. So I've got a few more little details to pick out. So we'll start with Cygor Brown, and this is going to be to pick out all the levers. So it's just mainly the straps around her waist. Again, we're going to use our size 1 as we want that control, and these are fairly small areas. Cygor Brown gives a nice looking leather effect. Very simply, as you can see just there, looks great. We'll do that over her ammo pouches as well. And we've got a belt right around her waist here, which goes all the way around the back. With the levers done, we have one last contrast paint to apply, and because we got a face on show, we'll use Guilliman Flesh to pick out facial details. So again, we'll get a small amount of this on our palette. We ain't got a large area to cover, so we won't need that much. But again, we're using our size 1 brush for that control. Get a small amount on the brush, and we simply apply the Guilliman Flesh onto her face. With all those contrasts fully applied, we can now take a look at the metallic details. So this is any of the holy icons, and of course metal details such as the bolt gun there. So we'll start with Balthazar Gold, nice warm bronze, ideal for picking out the holy icons. So get a bit on our palette and fill it down with a touch of water. And again, we're using the size 1 brush just so we got nice control. Medium layer from Citadel will work just as fine. So we'll start by picking out the holy chaplet around her neck. Then we'll pick out the buckle on her belt. And she's got a little skull and halo symbol on her bolt gun there as well. And next for the silver details, we're going to use Iron Hands Steel, which is a nice bright silver. It will help to accent the brightness of the colour scheme already. And plus it will go over white with minimal layers. So again, we'll get some on our palette, thin it down a touch with some water. Making sure we haven't got too much on our brush and we've got a nice point. We can start picking out the details. So we got the mechanical workings of the bolt gun, including the magazine here, the grip, and next we want to start picking out all her iconography. So the Aquila on the shoulder pad, any piping. Don't forget the grenade and the pin just inside her mouth there. And she's getting ready to throw a frag into the enemy. You got the clasps going down her corset to pick out in silver, as well as her belt buckle there. And again, any fleur-de-lis symbols. So one on her shoulder pad, and there's one here on her knee as well, we can just about pick out. So there we have our Sacred Rose sister pretty much complete. Last colour to do to consider her battle ready is to apply a shade to those metals, as well as the reds and blacks with non-oil. As we're going over fairly select areas, we will use again a smaller brush than normal. I'll just use a large shade brush to get a nice puddle on my palette. A medium shade brush even. Then we'll go back to our number 1 brush. Then we can coat over areas like the red and black of her robes, levers of a belt, her chaplet, as well as all these buckles on her chest, on the corset, pipes and insignias, and all over on the bolt gun. And there we have it, with the shade dry. Our Order of the Sacred Rose Battle Sister is complete. So using these methods, you can get a batch of these girls on the tabletop pretty quickly. But if you want to take it a little further, we can apply a few highlights, as well as tidy up some of those base colours. So we'll start there. We'll start with the silvers, as I've already got a bit of metallic left in my water. And this is just going to be a simple slight highlight with Stormhose Silver. Just want to touch the corners, any prominent edges, to pick out those that would reflect light the most. So we don't need a lot, so I'll get a small amount on our palette, thin it with a little bit of water. So areas we want to touch are the chaplet, so we'll just pick out this bottom and top, as well as the skull detail there. We'll pick out corners on bolt gun, as well as the magazine. There, as you can see, we've just touched on the highest points of all the silvers, as well as the chaplet there. So next we'll start working on all of the matte colours with some fresh water in our pot. So we'll start with the red, and we'll do Evil Sun Scarlet as a nice layer all over the more exposed areas of red cloth. So we'll get a small puddle on our palette again, thin it down with a touch of water, and we can start picking out the areas that face the light more than any. So got this exposed piece here. Try to avoid the buttonholes if we can. Just gently apply the Evil Sun Scarlet. As you can see, I've built up the red in a couple of layers, and that really stands out against the darker red of the shadowed areas. So next we'll look at layering up the black, and we'll start by layering all the flat areas with Corvus black. So this is a nice smoky charcoal black. That will help differentiate the lighter areas of cloth from those in the recesses. So just with the red, we'll get a small amount on our palette and thin it down with some water. Making sure our brush isn't too overloaded. I'll bring our model in. So what we'll do is we'll pick out the high ridges on her loincloth here, leaving the black legion in the recesses. A nice dark shaded cloth. On the back here we got a rather prominent area we can paint. So we got this nice raised bit here. Try to leave as much of the recesses as we can. You might need to angle your model in order to get all the areas. Let's just keep moving it around so you're working quite comfortably. So that's the black cloth layered up. There's one last detail we're going to do, and that's to add an edge highlight with Dawnstone just on the sharpest folds. So we've added a little bit extra definition. So a small amount on our palette, thin it down ever so slightly, just to help ease of flow. And show you on the back here. So this most prominent raised bit of cloth here, we'll do nice sharp highlight of Dawnstone. Down there, same for here. Making sure we paint towards ourselves for added control. Couple of folds up at the top there to catch. Also, while we got Dawnstone, we can add a nice highlight to the bolt gun casing. So doing the uppermost edges. With the black finally highlighted with Dawnstone, our cloth is done. I made a few mistakes, but I've tidied it up using some Corvus black on the flat areas. I even reintroduced some Black Legion into the very folds there. And as you can see, our end result is looking quite sharp. So next up, we're going to start layering up the levers. So we'll start with Doombull Brown as an all-over layer. Again, like with the black and red, we'll avoid the very recesses. Just bringing out our highlights on the most upper-facing surfaces. So it's a nice reddy brown. So what we'll do is start picking out this strap here, going up to where it meets the other strap, leaving it away the recess. Pick out the pouches. Again, trying to leave as much of the Cygor brown in the recesses as we can. And then we got this strap coming down here. Finally then, for the levers and also to pick out the face detail, we'll use Cadian flesh tone. So on the face we'll highlight with a all over layer, but for the levers we're going to use the edge highlighting technique. So we've got the paint prepared and washed down on our palette. Making sure we've not overloaded too much, we can start picking out the raised face detail. So we got her nose there and her cheek. And if we can get there, her chin as well. Then for the leather, like I said, we're going to do an edge highlight. So if we focus here on the pouches, we'll pick out top edges there, down the sides, so we're giving that nice worn leather look. While we've also got Cadian flesh tone on our palette, we can add a fine highlight to the edges of the red robes, just to add that little extra punch. And our final piece of detail to do then is to tidy up all that white armour. So for that, we're going back to White Scar. This process might take a while. It will take quite a few layers to cover over any spills from the darker colours that we've made. But just keep at it. A couple of thin layers is your best method to go. So again, we'll prepare some on our palette, touch of water. Then we'll start on the leg here, so we'll just highlight most raised detail, leaving that soul blight grey in the recesses. Some areas we can just edge highlight, like on the knee there. And with those details done, white tidied up, we have finished our Adepta Sororitas from the Order of the Sacred Rose. And as you can see, she'll be ready to take the fight to those filthy heretics and the Xenos in the name of the Emperor. I'll put up a few still shots of her just before the end of the video. But hopefully this will help you paint yours up to a pretty good tabletop standard. And there we have it. One Adepta Sororitas painted up in the Order of the Sacred Rose. So, a rather nice different paint video. So, pretty, I don't know what to say. And there we have it, one Adepta Sororitas painted up in the Order of the Sacred Rose. A pretty cool order, if I do say so myself. And yeah, we've used very simple methods in this video. We've kept our colour palette very limited. And we've got a good result all in all. So we've done the battle ready method just to bring that model out to a good tabletop standard, and then those extra details can bring it up to a little bit more of a showcase model. As I said, we've limited our palette, so we've been able to highlight many colours with a matching highlight colour in the form of the Cadian flesh tone there, done on the browns, reds, and indeed the flesh. So hopefully you can use these methods to paint your army and get it onto the tabletop, purging the enemies of the Imperium. Always have to say a big thank you to all my supporters, whether you're on YouTube or Patreon. My thanks goes out to you as your support helps keep me creating all this mad content. Speaking of Patreon, you'll be getting the bonus video this month of the Order of our Martyred Lady paint scheme, one of the most numerous orders within the Adepta Sororitas, and a pretty nice colour scheme of red, black and white. So, finally then, a big thank you again to all of you for watching, and until next time, stay safe and happy hobbying. Goodbye. Right. And there we have it, one Adepta Sororitas painted up in the Order of the Sacred Rose. A rather nice colour scheme with that bright white armour, contrasting nicely with the black and the red robes. I hope you found this video helpful. We've used very simple methods getting the model up to a battle ready standard, and then we've kept again things simple as we've added on a few extra highlights in the form of edge highlighting and some lighter layers. We've also managed to keep our colour palette very simple. We've used one highlight colour, in this case Cadian flesh tone, in order to highlight several different base coat layers. So we've edge highlighted the red and the brown, as well as picked out the final details on the face. So hopefully you can find these methods helpful in order to paint your own models and get them onto the tabletop soon. All I have to do is to say a big thank you to all my supporters, whether you're on YouTube or indeed supporting me on Patreon. A big thank you goes out to all of you. Your support helps me create all this mad content for you to enjoy. Speaking of Patreon, you are getting a bonus video this month in the form of an Adepta Sororitas paint video focusing on the Order of our Martyred Lady. One of the most numerous convents of the Adepta Sororitas, this colour scheme uses a lovely black, red and white mix. And I'll be giving you some extra tips on how to make your models pop out that a little bit more. Alright, big thank you to all of you who've watched this video. I hope you found it very helpful, and until next time, stay safe and happy hobbying. Goodbye.